Welcome everybody, this is a video on dividing complex numbers. So our problem here is 5 minus 2i divided by 3 plus I. And in order to do this, we have to introduce a concept called the conjugate. And in order to divide these two things, we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. And the conjugate is essentially you're just changing the sign between the two. So right now we have a positive, it's 3 plus I. The conjugate is going to be the opposite, it's 3 minus I. All right, and the reason we have to multiply by this conjugate is to get the imaginary number out of the denominator so we only have real numbers in our denominator. And you'll see how they get eliminated in a second as we go through this. But let's start our process. So again, 3 plus I is the denominator, and the conjugate is just going to be the opposite operation or opposite symbol between the two. So we have plus, and so the conjugate is 3 minus I. So we're going to take the numerator and the denominator, and we are going to multiply it by the conjugate. And the reason we can do this is because really 3 minus I over 3 minus I is just 1. Remember, anything over itself is 1. And when we multiply anything by 1, it doesn't change the value of it. So that's why we are able to do this, and it doesn't change it, but we can then carry out our division process. So I'm going to take care of the denominator first. Remember, to multiply these two binomials, we're going to do the first times the first. We're going to do outside times outside, inside times inside, and last term times last term. So 3 times 3 is 9. Outside is 3 times negative I, which is minus 3i. Inside is I times 3, which is a positive 3i. And then the last terms are I times I, which gives you a negative I squared. All right, so you can see right here this negative 3 plus 3i, those are additive inverses, so those go away, those cancel. And remember, this I squared is equivalent to negative 1, so we can replace that I squared with negative 1. So our denominator becomes 9 minus negative 1. And of course, subtracting a negative is the same as adding, so our denominator becomes 10. In our numerator, we do the same thing. We multiply first times first, outside times outside, inside times inside, and last times last. So 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times negative I is negative 5i. Inside, negative 2i times 3, negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And of course, I comes along. And then we have negative 2i times negative I gives us a positive 2i squared. From here, we can combine like terms. Again, we can change the I squared into the negative 1. So if we were to rewrite this, this is just 2 times negative 1. So it becomes a minus 2 over here. So if we combine our real parts, we have 15 minus 2, which gives us 13. And then our imaginary parts, we have negative 5i minus 6i gives us negative 11i. So we're not quite done here. We still want to write it in standard form of a plus bi with the real part and the imaginary part. So the way we do this is we actually just take this 10 and we split it between the two of them. This 10 needs to divide into both of these. So to write it in standard form, it's 13 over 10 minus 11 over 10i. And that is how you divide complex numbers.